as you guys remember, November is Career Development Month. So throughout the month, we have been talking with all of our different staff members. So you guys have gotten to hear how they got here at Rape Response, what their journey has been. And today we are getting to talk with Stacy Emerick. Stacy is our counselor here on staff, so I will let her go and introduce herself and tell you a little bit about kind of her journey here. So Stacy, if you will go ahead and tell us what's your job title at Rape Response, how long have you been here, and then tell us kind of how you got here. What has your professional journey been?
Hi there, I'm Stacy, as Brittany said, and I am the counselor here at Rape Response. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and my job title is basically just therapist. So I provide the counseling and therapy services to our clients if they want counseling. And I've been with Rape Response for about 1.5 years. Maybe a little bit longer than that. And before Rape Response, I worked for another agency working with children, teens, and adults who had experienced any kind of sexual trauma. I've also worked in community-based services, which means that I was seeing clients in their homes or at their schools and doing work with children, teens, and their families. So I enjoy working with all ages, and I realized that trauma, and more specifically sexual trauma, was at the core of a lot of other issues that people would seek counseling for. And so that kind of is how I ended up specializing in trauma, and more specifically sexual trauma.
Okay, so what has been your educational journey getting here? Like, what did you major in undergrad and then go to grad school for? And then are there any additional trainings or things that you would recommend that people could do?
So my bachelor's degree is in psychology, and then to become a licensed counselor, you have to have a master's degree. So I got a master's degree from Mercer University in clinical mental health counseling. There's different tracks you can choose. You could choose a school counseling track, that kind of thing, but mine is the clinical mental health track. And then once you graduate from grad school, you also have to go through an internship process where you gain some clinical experience. But once you graduate from graduate school, there's a national counselor exam that you have to pass. Some universities offer it while you're still in school. Sometimes you have to take it after you've graduated, depending on your program. And so once you've gotten that exam under your belt, then you would apply to the state licensing board for an associate license. And this is for the licensed professional counselor track. There's other options such as social work or marriage and family therapy, but for licensed professional counseling, you start out applying for an associate licensure, and when that application goes through and it gets approved, then you are an LAPC, which stands for Licensed Associate Professional Counselor. And so for 3 years, you have that title. Might be longer than 3 years, but 3 years minimum. And then you're receiving clinical supervision from somebody who is fully licensed and has certain training and certain amount of experience to assist you in working through difficult cases, and just it's sort of like an apprenticeship or a residency during that period. And so once you have your at least 3 years and certain number of clinical hours and indirect hours, then you can apply for what we call the full license, which is the LPC. And after that, then, even during your associate licensure, you have to maintain that license. We have to have 35 hours of continuing education per licensing renewal period, which is every 2 years. And so that's where you have the ability to potentially specialize. You get maybe some specialized training like I have in trauma. There's several different treatment modalities that you can use for treating trauma. And I am trained and certified in TFCBT, which stands for Trauma Focused Cognitive Behavior Therapy, which is an evidence-based treatment for helping children and teenagers work through issues related to trauma. And then I'm also trained in EMDR, that stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and then working towards certification in that treatment modality. So there's a lot of different ones that you can do, but the trainings allow you to become more specialized if that's what you like.
That's really cool. So these trainings, a lot of times, especially when you have your associates and then you're working towards getting that, full licensure, it almost kind of gives you an opportunity there to explore different areas, of your field to see, do I want a specialization in trauma? Do I, so I think that's pretty interesting that even within that time, those continuing ed hours do kind of give you an opportunity to kind of find what speaks to you and find the area that you really enjoy. So you have not always been in the trauma counseling field. So this was something that you kind of found your way into. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So when you were going through school, did you choose a specialization or did you kind of learn that trauma was kind of where you wanted to be?
I definitely learned that after grad school and as I started working with people, different areas. And like I said, mostly with kids, teens, and their families is kind of how I started out.
Okay, really cool. So what advice would you give to somebody if they're looking to go into this career field, whether that's in social work, nonprofit work, or in counseling? What would be your advice to help somebody get to this point?
Just find out as much as you can about the field and maybe even, get in touch with people who are doing the work that you're interested in and, see if they're willing to sit down and talk with you about, the education it takes to get there or, what experience you need to get into that kind of work. I've had students contact me and ask me about my journey and how I got here and what kind of education I needed. And so I'm always happy to answer people's questions. And I think for the most part, people would be happy to sit down with you or even talk on the phone and explain, just what it takes to get into that work.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stacy, for taking the time to come and talk with us today and tell us a little bit about your journey. If you guys have any questions or if maybe this is something that you're interested in, please feel free to call us anytime. You can call us at 770-503-7273, or you can visit our website at raperesponse.com. Thanks, guys.